Corey Evan, coming up in the Weekender. Greece gets another 4 months to work out how to deal with its debt crisis. 800,000 people here at home get to deal with their taxes again because Obamacare royally screwed them over. West Coast sports are finally getting back to work because the strike is coming to an end. The American diet is killing us, at least that's according to the latest government report in our continuing battle against global socialism. If you're a criminal and want to get caught quickly, just do what one of our crime and pinhead subjects did and steal a GPS. I take a look at what's haunting customers this week in our Customer Service Nightmare segment. And a GSN original is set for its second season on April Fool's Day. No fooling. Ladies and gentlemen, put up your feet. The Weekender starts now.
Making sense of the week's news and the most of your weekend. From Southern California, this is the SHR Weekender with Corey Evan.
I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this edition of the SHR Weekender on this Saturday, February 21st, 2015. The weather's a little patchy, but at least we're all here and we're all well. So, let's get into it. Greece and the Eurozone nations have agreed to a deal to extend financial aid after bailout talks in Brussels. This from the BBC. Eurozone finance ministers reached an agreement to extend Greece's financial rescue program by 4 months. Dutch Finance Minister Jeroen Dijsselbloem, head of the Eurogroup, said that Athens had pledged to honor all of its debts. Quote, "This is a very positive outcome," he told a news conference on Friday night. In return for the extension, Greece has agreed to present its initial list of reform measures by Monday, he added. Yanis Varoufakis, the Greek finance minister, said he would work night and day between now and Monday to devise the new list. Be sure to take your 5-hour energy, Mr. Varoufakis. Eurozone officials will then review the reforms and see if they go far enough to appease creditors. If finance chiefs are left unsatisfied, there is still a chance the deal will be scrapped. Mr. Varoufakis added that Greece had not used threats or bluff during the talks. However, he said the deal would be dead if the list of Greek reforms was not agreed, reported the AFP news agency. Friday's extension was sealed just days before Greece's bailout program ends. The BBC's chief business correspondent Linda Yu says the Greeks have won some flexibility, but the reforms must be made within the set fiscal parameters. Stay with us here at SHR Media. We will keep an eye on the developments out of Greece, and if any developments develop, we will bring them to you. Next up from Yahoo News, a fire erupted early Saturday morning at the Marina Torch in Dubai, the 79-floor skyscraper that is among the world's tallest residential buildings. According to a report in the English-language Gulf News, hundreds were evacuated from the building, but high winds hindered firefighters' initial efforts to contain the blaze. It's since been extinguished, according to local witnesses. Resident Catherine Dickey told ABC News that the building's fire alarm started blaring about 2 a.m. She lives on the 13th floor and was quoted as saying, "The guards were pretty frantic." There were no immediate reports of deaths or injuries in the blaze, which was believed to have started around the 52nd floor. The building's part of the densely populated and high-rise filled Marina district, popular among Dubai's expatriate population. Those nearby have flooded social media with frightening and spectacular images of the fire. The official cause has not yet been determined as of the time this program was recorded, and we will post updates as they come to us on the Facebook page, facebook.com/SHR Weekender, or on the Twitter feed at SHR News Desk. Healthcaregov just can't catch a break. According to Engadget.com, it's been targeted by hackers and shared personal info with marketing companies in the past 6 months, and now it's trying to clean up a mess for the nearly 800,000 people it just sent incorrect tax info to. The Obama administration confirmed the issue yesterday, and officials promised on the Healthcare.gov blog to contact affected households via phone call and email over the next few days. Needless to say, don't file your taxes yet if you've signed up for health insurance using the site this past year. Better safe than sorry, am I right or am I right? Alas, the news came too late to save some 50,000 people who already filed their returns. They'll be given instructions on how to refile soon enough. This all might come as welcome news to people who didn't want to sit down with a copy of TurboTax for an hour, but it could wind up being a crushing blow to affected people who really needed that tax refund soon. Officials told the New York Times they weren't exactly sure how the glitch happened. You can expect an investigation in the coming days. But 80% of the folks who use Healthcare.gov to sign up for insurance were in the clear as far as the IRS is concerned, they say. Updated tax forms are expected to hit people's mailboxes in early March, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled. As will we. Next up from Reuters, union negotiators on Thursday rejected the latest contract offer from oil companies and said the largest U.S. refinery strike since 1980 may spread to more plants beyond the 11 where walkouts are underway. The United Steelworkers Union sent in a message to members and news media, including Reuters, that the latest proposal from lead oil company negotiator Royal Dutch Shell failed to improve safety at refineries and chemical plants in an enforceable way. The union also told workers not on strike to be prepared to walk out in the coming days. A USW spokeswoman confirmed the message but said the union would have no further comment. A Shell spokesman said the two sides had met on Thursday. Quote, "We continue to be focused on reaching a mutually satisfactory agreement," said Shell spokesman Ray Fisher. "We remain committed to maintaining safe operations as part of the normal course of business. Out of respect for the bargaining process, we are unable to comment further on today's activities," unquote. Earlier this week, the union's lead negotiator, International Vice President Gary Beavers, told Reuters that safe staffing levels at refineries and chemical plants were a sticking point in the talks. More than 5,000 workers at 11 plants, including 9 refineries accounting for 13% of U.S. production capacity, remained on strike on Thursday. They're seeking a new 3-year contract governing safety and pay. The strike widened on February 6 when workers at 2 refineries operated by BP were told to walk off their jobs the following day. Only 1 refinery has shut down due to the strike. Tesoro Corporation's 166,000-barrel-a-day plant in Martinez, California was scheduled for a partial shutdown for a planned multi-unit overhaul prior to the strike. Company officials decided to idle the entire plant after the walkout began. Tesoro officials have said production will not resume for the duration of the strike. Ladies and gentlemen, as I'm predicting, gas prices are starting to come back up, and I think that these strikes could help push prices further. Not to mention that oil refinery that blew up in Torrance earlier this week. California, for those of you. So keep with us here at SHR Media. We will keep an eye on these stories, and we'll let you know what's going on as it goes down. Of course, as far as strikes go, that's the bad news. The good news is, on the West Coast, shipping companies and dock workers have reached a tentative labor deal after 9 months of negotiating that has deadlocked the flow of cargo through 29 ports on the U.S. West Coast and disrupted maritime trades across the Pacific with Asia. A joint statement between the two sides was issued confirming the agreement. Just 3 days before, U.S. Labor Secretary Thomas Perez had arrived in San Fran in an attempt to broker a deal, bringing with him a federal mediator who had spent weeks trying to bring the two sides together, according to a Reuters report. The massive labor agreement will come as a tremendous relief to the economy and allow trans-Pacific trade to resume. During the dispute, cargo ships had sat idle, anchored off the West Coast in a standoff with shipping companies. Trucks arriving at ports to pick up their cargo were backed up endlessly. With the agreement not yet finalized, President Obama in a statement urged them to work quickly to clear backlogs and congestion in the ports. The dispute over a new 5-year labor contract has left 20,000 dock workers without any contracts since last summer. The dispute had a major disruption on the flow of cargo at the ports in question, which handled nearly half of U.S. maritime trade and more than 70% of the imports from Asia. Under the new agreement, the Longshore and Warehouse Union and the Pacific Maritime Association both agreed to restore port operations beginning this evening. The dispute became so significant for the U.S. economy that it prompted Labor Secretary Perez to get involved, telling both the union and management negotiators that they need to get a deal done because, quote, "too many people and businesses are suffering," according to the Reuters report. And McDonald's Corporation and its franchisees may have few options but to begin raising hourly wages as an improving, quote-unquote, U.S. economy creates competition for good workers, and as mega employer Walmart sets a higher bar on pay, according to labor experts. The pressure comes at a particularly difficult time for the world's biggest fast food chain. McDonald's and its roughly 3,000 U.S. franchisees are fighting to break a long streak of lackluster sales that has made it virtually impossible to boost prices on its famous burgers and fries to cover high labor costs. McDonald's declined comment. It referred reporters to a December statement saying that franchisees set wages for roughly 90% of the chain's more than 14,000 U.S. restaurants. McDonald's says it can only increase pay in the small number of restaurants it operates. Walmart on Thursday said it would increase entry-level pay to $9 an hour, a move it estimated would cost $1 billion and affect some 500,000 employees. Gary Chasen, professor of industrial relations at Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, said there is substantial overlap between fast food and Walmart workers in smaller communities. Walmart, the world's biggest retailer, and McDonald's have been the target of frequent protests by union-supported hourly workers demanded that their pay be increased to $15 an hour from an average that's closer to the federal minimum of $7.25 an hour. But of course, with all this demand for higher wages, can potentially come higher prices for us, the consumers. So ladies and gentlemen, take this news with a grain of salt. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the latest in our continuing battle against global socialism! This first story comes to us from the Washington Post. A new report by the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee is asking America to please eat more fruits and vegetables. They convene every 5 years, and they say that the rest of the American diet is having devastating effects. About 2/3 of American adults are overweight or obese. And maybe worse, about half of American adults, about 117 million people, have preventable chronic diseases related to poor diet and physical inactivity, the group said. This dismal diagnosis is the foundation for the group's report, which provides the scientific basis for the nation's dietary guidelines, the advice booklet that will be issued by the federal government late this year. The committee's report amounts to a scientific update regarding what is known about healthy eating. For the first time, the committee is recommending that the government should consider the environment when telling Americans what they should eat, a move that could have a significant impact on the amount of meat people eat.
Fruity, fruity, fruity.
It also for the first time addressed concerns about coffee, saying that there is strong evidence that moderate consumption is not associated with long-term health risks, although this newsman, being a Mormon, would be open to debating you on that. The panel also reversed decades of warnings about dietary cholesterol, as the Post previously reported. For years, the dietary guidelines have advised Americans to consume no more than 300 milligrams of cholesterol a day, a warning that limited egg consumption for many Americans. The limit arose from the belief that eating cholesterol would lead to high levels of bad cholesterol in the blood, but the group concluded no such warning is necessary. The report runs about 571 pages and outlines reams of scientific evidence about what's good to eat. And in terms of dietary advice, it's summed up like this. A healthy diet rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, low or non-fat dairy, seafood, legumes, and nuts. Well, at least they left the seafood in there, so Jennifer, you're safe. It's moderate in alcohol. I say no alcohol, but maybe they were drinking. And it's lower in red and processed meat, and low in sugar-sweetened foods and drinks and refined grains. Of course, you can tell what my opinion on this report is. Just leave me alone, federal government. I know what I want to eat. I know what's good for me. I know what's not good for me. Let me make those decisions myself. That's all part of growing up, learning what's good for you and what's bad for you. And from the Newark Advocate, this week students across Ohio started taking the PARCC tests, the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. The computer-based tests are centered around the common crud, and at least so far, feedback is varied. Heath High School Principal Ellis Booth's tweet from Wednesday afternoon says, quote, "So how was your PARCC experience? Ours was an epic failure. Back to the drawing board." Less than 2 hours later, though, Licking Valley High School Principal Wes Weaver sent out this tweet, quote, "Sixth graders recap of the terrifying at PARCC place test chaos today. It was easy. Problems? Had to adjust my screen brightness. #horrors." As you know, ladies and gentlemen, over on the Evan Miller Report, we've been arguing against Common Core for years because not only are the standards lower than the federal government would want you to think, it's just a mess. State officials cautioned results from the exams will be delayed this school year because there's no baseline for scoring. After the tests are completed, scores across the country will be compared to determine proficiency levels. Students will receive rankings of 2 to 5 based on their performances. In future years, the state hopes to get results from the first round of testing before the end of the school year, so districts can determine whether to use them in determining promotion of children. So, when will the government stop shoveling stuff onto our plates? When will Bill Gates leave our children alone? And when will the East Coast send some of that snow over to the West Coast so we can fill up our reservoirs? Stay tuned for developments in our continuing battle against global socialism. Coming up after the break, if you want to get caught stealing something, steal a GPS. That's what one of the guys in Crime and Pinheads did this week. I take you around the world to witness some of the pain and suffering that's going on at the customer service desks. And in the Game Show News Minute, a fool and an idiot are united. That's all coming up on the SHR Weekender. You're listening to SHR Media. I'm Corey Evan. Take 2 minutes, go get a cookie, and come on back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
You're listening to the SHR Weekender on shrmedia.com. Once again, here's Corey.
Welcome back to the Weekender, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Corey Evan, and now it's time to go around the country and the world to see who spots their crimes this time in Crime and Pinheads. As you know, these are the fools who thought they had gotten away with it, but they did something so stupid in committing their crime that was only a matter of time before we found out. Such as this one from The Blaze. Inclement weather can negatively impact our lives, making the traffic longer or a walking commute less pleasant, but on Wednesday it led police directly to a theft suspect. Police in Columbus, Indiana were responding to a call about a vehicle that had been robbed when they noticed clear footprints in the snow away from the scene of the crime. Police followed the trail and saw where it led, and were pleasantly surprised when they ended up at a nearby shed where 21-year-old Corey Huddleston, no relation to yours truly, was hiding out with the missing items, including a GPS device. Huddleston was arrested, and RTV6 reports that the story is gaining traction on the police department's Facebook page. People are describing it as, quote, things dumb criminals do. Next up, out of Missouri from the Columbia Tribune, Columbia police Thursday arrested a 45-year-old man who allegedly broke into a home in central Columbia and stole more than $500 worth of jewelry. Residents returned to their home about 8 p.m. in the 400 block of College Avenue and saw Brock A. Hockman run away, police spokeswoman Brianna Maupin said. Officers tracked Hockman using footprints in the snow, which led to his location near the intersection of Windsor and Melbourne Streets, Maupin said. Hockman was arrested on suspicion of second-degree burglary and felony stealing. He's being held at the Boone County Jail on a $9,000 bond. And out of Grantville, Pennsylvania, from WHTM, an affiliate of ABC News, $10,000 was nearly scammed from a woman's pocket as someone impersonating a police officer and Dauphin County public defender said her nephew was arrested for DUI. Robert Gosnell was stuck in a work meeting Wednesday morning for several hours. During that time, his family thought he was in prison and needed thousands of dollars for bail. However, his aunt in Mechanicsburg was almost fooled. Gosnell said someone called her home in the morning and said they needed to discuss a matter involving her nephew. The caller said he was arrested for driving under the influence. A few minutes later, Gosnell received another phone call. This time it was a person claiming to be with the Dauphin County Public Defender's Office. They looked up the public defender's name, called, and realized they were nearly scammed. No money was wired. I mean, it sounds sophisticated on the surface, but really, you have to think that there's a chance that the person you're trying to scam is going to call the real public defender's office and figure it all out. Beware, criminals! I am keeping an eye out for you, and I'll see you next week in Crime and Pinheads. Mark my words. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know good customer service is hard to find, but since there's so much bad customer service in the world, I figured it would make for an interesting rotating segment this week. So, let's take a look at customer service nightmares. Whether you're the customer or the guest service representative who's trying to help the customer, there's always going to be an interesting story to tell the family when you get home from work. Maybe not every day, but there'll be those days. Like this one out of Deer Park, Texas, from CBS Houston. A shopper and an employee at Walmart got into a brawl last weekend when the customer headbutted the employee. Quote, I hope I broke her nose, Jessica Albitz, the customer involved in the brawl, told CBS Houston. I hope she has 2 black eyes and I hope she remembers me for the rest of her life, unquote. Albitz told CBS Houston that the fight was a result of bad customer service during her tax session at a Jackson Hewitt inside the Walmart. Quote, she started talking trash at my husband, Albitz added. Albitz said she decided to do some shopping the day after she got her taxes done. The employee chose not to press charges against Albitz, although Albitz did receive a trespassing warning. Albitz says she has no regrets. Quote, I would do it all over again and harder, she added. The Deer Park Police Department is currently investigating this fight. I mean, just because the rep doesn't give you the best service or the service that you expect customers, that doesn't give you the right to hurt them. It really doesn't. But at the same time, if you're a customer service rep, do not call your customers names. They're not yet part of Comcast, but it's taking after its potential parent company in one very unfortunate way. Get this, Comcast customers have complained about their billing account names being changed to insults like the A word, the W word, dummy, and super. Now the same thing has happened at Time Warner Cable to a customer named Esperanza Martinez. Martinez, of Orange County, California, provided ARS Technica a copy of a letter she just got from Time Warner Cable. And even though the letter itself is professionally written, at the top, it actually has her name written as the C word. After beginning, Dear Martinez, the letter says, we know you recently decided to cancel your services, but that's not what happened, Martinez told ARS. I am a current Time Warner customer, and I just received a letter today addressed to Martinez. It's a letter stating I requested to disconnect my service, which I never did. I have escalated the issue to Time Warner Cable's corporate customer service and was told I will receive a follow-up call within 48 hours. The only info they could provide was that the name change was made on 2/12/15, which happens to be the same day I used their live chat feature online and called in and spoke to a representative regarding an issue with my cable box. It's unfortunate that customer service representatives could ever act in this sort of way by rewriting their name on their billing statement. I mean, they're just asking for a lawsuit if they're writing names like the W word, the C word, and all those other words. So stay tuned to the Evan Miller Report for the latest Comcast dealings in lawsuits across America. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Now, according to TalkingRetail.com, research carried out by real-time shopper engagement specialist InDime says 36% of customers believe grocery stores need to improve customer interaction in-store. The research also revealed that 70% of shoppers have walked out of an outlet due to a lack of assistance, with almost all of them leaving behind goods worth more than £20, about $35 in our money, and 40% leaving shopping worth more than £30. Of those that voted with their feet, 90% of them purchased from another outlet instead. InDime Commercial Director Western Europe Terry Clancy said, quote, retailers simply can't afford to be complacent. Shoppers have an abundance of choice not only on the high street, but also online, and they're more demanding than ever. They don't part with their cash lightly, so if they feel they're getting poor value for money, and that includes customer service, they'll simply go elsewhere. Very true out of Europe, and of course that holds true here in the US. Because even though a lot of companies say they've got a money-back guarantee on a lot of the goods and services they provide, sometimes you have to really hammer them to get your money back. In fact, the Huffington Post goes so far as to tell us about how to deal with bad customer service. Like if you deal with them over the phone, having your own recording of a call with the customer service rep can be a great way to hold the company accountable if, like in the recent Comcast incidents, they overcharge you, leave you on hold for more than 3 hours, or simply will not allow you to quit. Recording conversations can be kind of a pain and won't likely reform cable companies like Comcast, which are often the only choice you have, but one recent recorded call did at least force Comcast to retract a bogus charge to a customer's bill. At least Janet Wagner, an associate professor and director of the Center for Excellence in Service at the University of Maryland Smith School of Business, says that. She says, quote, it provides incontrovertible evidence of poor customer service. Wagner said that in order for a company to change, its leaders need to be aware of bad customer experiences. And at the same time, they always are saying your call may be recorded or monitored for quality and training purposes, so why not give them a taste of their own medicine? Make sure you're getting the most for your money, ladies and gentlemen. That's my advice, because in this economy, you really don't have much choice. And on that note, we have one more break to go to. When we come back, GSN renews a very smart game show from last year to premiere on April Fool's Day. And if you're buying a used car, this week's tip of the week is for you. That's all coming up after the break.
Don't click away. The SHR Weekender will be right back.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
I'm Corey Evan, the Game Show Geek. It is Saturday, February 21st, 2015. Here's your Game Show News Minute. Hasbro and Ubisoft have released Trivial Pursuit Live, which can be purchased today on PlayStation and Xbox. It reimagines the traditional famous board game by giving it a new game show twist. Different game question modes pop up at random through each round, such as Hot Seat, where you race against the clock, and another is Greedy Grab, where you eliminate players from subsequent questions if they answer incorrectly. You can buy it on Xbox and PlayStation for $9.99, or if you have the newer consoles, $14.99. Those of you still mourning the gap left in the Saturday night TV schedule by 90s ITV show Gladiator, your luck has just come in. Ninja Warrior UK, based on an extreme assault course game show from Japan called Sasuke, is being brought in by ITV and will be hosted by Ben Shepherd and ex-footballer Chris Kamara. It's been described as the toughest obstacle course ever seen on British television, and ITV's commissioning editor for entertainment, Asif Subiri, promises some inspirational achievements, as well as hilarious mishaps. Speaking of hilarious, GSN announced the second season premiere of their new hit game show Idiot Test for Wednesday, April 1st at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Comedian Ben Glebe returns as the wildly witty host, dishing out even tougher brain teasers to contestants competing for $10,000. And I can't tell you exactly what they're going to do for the April 1st premiere, but there are going to be plenty of April Fool's gaffes. So, bring your sense of humor, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, I'm Corey Evans saying thank you very much for listening to this Game Show News Minute. You know, I actually kind of like the Idiot Test because the answer's right there in front of you, all kind of like the red puzzle they had, in which the big letters said, don't touch red, but if you read between the lines, it would say, don't worry, touch the red one. I mean, read the whole thing, people, if you're going to go on Idiot Test. And now, on to our tip of the week, which I'm going to provide to you used car buyers, which I am one of. If you're out buying a used car this weekend, you may already have a model and color already picked out, but you should do more than that. You should be thinking of what's under the hood as well as what the hood looks like itself. I mean, it should go like stink, but at the same time you want it to keep going. So how do you know it's going to be a car that keeps going? Well, look out for mileage versus price. High mileage should lead to a lower price, and vice versa. But when you go to check out the car, remember, have a checklist of all the things that a car should have running properly, and just go down the list and make sure you check off every single item. Open the hood, look inside the cabin behind the dashboard, open the glove box, open every door, slam the door, open the boot, make sure that there's nothing in there that shouldn't be there, and look under the car as well, and make sure when you look at it that you take it outside if it's in the garage. But remember, if the price is a bit high for your liking, take a second look and then think really hard before signing on the dotted line, because that's really signing your life away. And remember, look at other cars as well. There's Craigslist, there's the Penny Savers, there's postings at the Starbucks. They're all over the place. You can even look at the one that just drove by as you were listening here just a moment ago. Yeah, just call them up and ask them about the car. But whatever you do, make sure you get to the phones and get to the cars as quickly as you can, because they're here today, gone tomorrow. Just like the SHR Weekender is here now, gone in just a moment. Because we're all done for this edition of the Weekender for this February 21st, 2015. Because I'm all done with this edition of the SHR Weekender for this Saturday, February 21st, 2015. For all of us here at SHR Media, I'm Corey Evans saying make it a great weekend, or not. The choice is yours.